All right, Ecclesiastes 7. Let's call this one Restored. In this chapter that seems like it's almost dropped straight out of the book of Proverbs, as he goes back to the compare and contrast model, meaning in a single verse, he will compare and contrast two things. This time going back to the compare and contrast between wisdom and folly. For roughly the first 13 verses, a lot of wisdom in there that we are not going to take the time to go through. But hopefully that'll encourage you to look at the chapter on your own and gain some of that wisdom, understanding that I can't live life through your experience. And the wisdom that he is dropping here goes beyond my experience and the things that I would emphasize, kind of like the Bible in general. So hopefully these discussions are encouraging you to look more deeply into the word and the value it has for you on your own. And that gives me a chance to pit stop here and remind you of why I do this. As Solomon presumably is going on in this chapter after summarizing the wisdom, doing something a friend reminded me of way back when I was not even thinking of being a preacher. He just said, from what we call a secular or non-biblical perspective, in life, Marcus, sometimes it's better to show me instead of telling me. And so in this chapter that seems like it is dropped out of the book of Proverbs, it seems that Solomon, for the first 13 verses, is showing us once again what wisdom looks like, as he will conclude that section of wisdom round about verse 23, stating, "All this I have tested by wisdom. I said, I will be wise, but it was far from me. That which has been is far off and deep, very deep. Who can find it out?" And if Solomon can't find it out, assuming he is the preacher of Ecclesiastes, what hope do we have? Well, we do still have the hope of escaping life's snares, which has less to do with wisdom as much as it has to do with a familiar theme that he reminds us of roundabout verse 25. "I turned my heart to know and to search out and to seek out wisdom in the scheme of things, and to know the wickedness of folly and the foolishness that is madness. And I find something more bitter than death, the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and whose hands are fetters. He who pleases God escapes her, but the sinner is taken by her." Notice, he talks about it's not wisdom that helps him escape, but something that sounds an awful lot like character. Understanding that if we back up a little bit, he is going to make an observation about all mankind in verse 20. "Surely there is not a righteous man on earth who does good and never sins." All right, then, if that's the case, why is God saving anybody from the wayward woman? Once again, a theme that we saw back in the Proverbs that he brings around again here. Is God simply unfair for saving some and not others? Maybe, but probably not, if we go on and look at the final few verses of the chapter, if not just the final verse, where verse 29 will say, "See, this alone I found, that God made man upright, but they have sought out many schemes." And the thing that it made me think about is this. The thing that makes life fair is we all seek out many schemes. And as he says earlier in the chapter, none of us can really claim to be righteous. But to the degree we lean into our schemes, a lot of times God just takes his hands off and lets us run into the traps that life has set all around us. But if we genuinely ask him to restore us to the way that he created us, as this chapter says, upright, and as we'll see in other places, to a place of genuine integrity, then maybe, just maybe, he'll give us a gift more valuable than wealth or wisdom. He'll actually deliver us from evil.